Hey everybody, James Mulvaney here. Welcome to Working Lunch. Today we are going to be talking to Mark Brown. If you're new to Working Lunch, each and every Wednesday at midday, we talk to a different guest and we discuss 3 actionable strategies that you can implement immediately to assist growing your business, growing your team, or growing your audience. If you've got any questions throughout today's stream, please put them in the comments. We will be doing a bit of a Q&A at the end. We're going to be talking about 3 different topics today, as each week we do. And of course, if you miss any of it, it's going to be available to watch again on demand. So please feel free to share this with your networks. And without further ado, let's bring in this week's guest, Mark Brown. Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Hey, James. Good to see you. I'm very good, thank you.
Welcome to Working Lunch. I think it's great to have you on board. First of all, just for those of you who don't know, just give you a bit of a background about what you do and talk a bit about what services you offer at Editors Keys and the products you've got.
Yeah, so I'm Mark Brown, the company director of Editors Keys, and we essentially produce these color-coded shortcut keyboards. So if you edit video, if you make music or design, we have these color-coded keyboards that help you really speed up your editing process. And then under the Studio Series brand, we've also got a range of USB microphones, one of which I'm using here, portable vocal booths and recording equipment. So if you're any kind of creator, or even if you're a small business looking to put out content in the future, then check out some of the gear, definitely.
Cool. So how long have you been doing that now? I think your sort of backstory is quite interesting, how you got into it.
Yeah, so it's been going since about 2005. I actually started working freelance in television. I used to work on shows like Jeremy Kyle and Trisha and Jerry Springer, all of the kind of talk shows. So I was always into media. I did media production at uni. And when I was there, after I left, I wanted to start my own little production company. And I sort of saved up everything I could to get the PC, the monitor, all the stuff. And the last thing I wanted was a kind of a shortcut keyboard, because I'd seen them in these TV studios. But at the time, they were only available for kind of like £300 or £400. They were like these big, bulky, expensive things. And I thought there's got to be a way you can transform your own PC keyboard or Mac keyboard. And essentially there wasn't. So me and a friend designed these little plastic veneer stickers that you could put onto your own keyboard, essentially. So it all started from a hobby, started on eBay. And then it sort of grew from there. We actually went into designing our own actual physical keyboards. And now we sort of sell those into the BBC, ITV, and sort of companies all across the world.
And you've got a fantastic YouTube channel. We recently recorded some videos at your office before all this kicked off, which we talked all about podcasting. And I think actually, you're really kind of keen on content strategy. So how's that been working for you?
Yeah, really, really well. I mean, we've had the YouTube channel for many years now, but I'd probably say it's over the last year or 2 that we've really been taking video strategy seriously. I think as a company that makes stuff for video editors, it was getting to the point where I thought this is crazy that we're not doing much video content ourselves. So I've just been diving into it so deeply. As you mentioned, you were on the channel for 5 episodes of how to create a podcast and all those tips, which is definitely worth watching. But we've been using it, to promote the business, but also to build up a kind of community around the things that we do. And we've seen in doing that, you can build a great community, but it can also help grow your business as well. And it doesn't need to be promoting your stuff 24/7. It can be just about your industry and niche. And it's been really working well.
And I think it's quite an interesting that leads on nicely to sort of today's topic, where we want to talk about like how you can, if you're a freelancer, I think a lot of your customers are freelancers. There's obviously a lot of people who work in the industries that you serve, video producers, people who work in audio production, editing, podcast editing, music production, that sort of stuff. And also sort of singer-songwriters. There's a lot of people who are really struggling at the moment because suddenly the world's really been turned upside down in a very short space of time. A lot of freelancers are in a position where perhaps the contracts that they had, they're not getting as much revenue in. People are sort of being a bit more wary because of the economy is taking a big downturn. So I was kind of keen to get some ideas flowing today of how, if you're a freelancer, but, with these kind of skill sets, what can we do to sort of help increase the number of clients we're taking on board? I think let's kick things off with the idea of sort of YouTube video marketing and how you can advertise on YouTube, because I think that's really an interesting topic.
Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, I've spoke to a lot of freelancers on this, and I know people who have lost the entire year's worth of work that they had penciled into their calendar. So it's like a really hard time for a lot of freelancers out there, especially if you are like a video creator or photographer. I know wedding photographers, obviously every wedding has been cancelled. So, I mean, first of all, the tip I would give, if you are a video producer, content producer, I would recommend, if you're specifically a video, going back to speaking to all of your past clients, because you might have some past content already filmed, bits of B-roll. And with a lot of these businesses like restaurants and bars that are closed down, obviously you're not going to be able to go in and film or create massively great new adverts for them. But a lot of them are looking still to stay relevant in their customers' mind. So you might have some old content that you could go back to and say, look, I know you're going to be hit pretty hard at the moment, but do you want me to create some maybe like 15-second, 30-second Instagram bits, Facebook bits, just to keep you kind of relevant as we're going through this period? And I've seen a lot of people do that, and that's helped them. Just not, it's not going to be big money, but it's going to be work that's going to help you ticking over in this period. I mean, the second thing, I think, especially when it comes to YouTube and sort of advertising, is you can really use this time to, I think, start practicing and growing like a YouTube strategy, a YouTube content. Because I know a lot of people don't have a lot of time for it, where, we've all got loads of time now. So there's not really many excuses not to start. But in terms of even ads, my sister-in-law, a great sort of an example of this, we filmed her kind of fairly recently doing some exercise regimes, as she's a personal trainer.
Yeah.
And what we did, just so that when coronavirus is sort of hopefully out of the way in a few months' time, she can start building up some more clients, we did kind of like a really targeted campaign. She's down in Chichester, and we actually did this on YouTube and Facebook, and kind of just created little 15-30-second videos. And they all started with, are you in Chichester and looking to get fit? So, and then we just really specifically targeted to her area of Chichester and put those out on YouTube and on Facebook. And I think I was surprised by the results, but she spent about £2 and had 10 inquiries, which is pretty insane. We don't get that kind of return even here. And it was just because it was so specific. It was, if you're in Chichester, target people who were members of Weight Watchers groups, of things that would show you're actively interested in potentially losing weight or getting fit. And it's done really, really well. A lot of people saying, as soon as this is over, I want to be out of the house. Or could you even live stream? She's got one who wants to live stream.
Specifically, this was on using YouTube ads? This was,
the more success, if I'm honest, came from Facebook, but we did it on YouTube ads as well. People who are searching for exercises to do at home, and then just target the area of Chichester. But the Facebook one seemed to work better, I think, because you can just directly message and drop a private message in rather than maybe a public comment. So it worked really, really well. So I think, I know that's a bit slightly different industry, but even if you're a freelancer, you could use this time now and say, are you X in your area? We could help, or
I think as well, like, look at I think you kind of make a good point there. So you've got to sort of think outside the box at the moment. If you're a freelancer and you've got the capability of producing video ads, perhaps you can take some footage that someone's shot on their iPhone and make it look a lot better versus just running the kind of like raw iPhone footage as an advert, which might have some results, it might not. But if you can add some graphics over the top, titles, you can edit it to music, and make a more of a polished performance. Ultimately, that's going to be of greater value, I think, to say someone like a personal trainer or a fitness instructor, and there is a big opportunity there at the moment to sort of teach people from home. Same thing, I think, like there's loads of industries which are relevant, like diet, for example, dietitians. I don't know about you, I've been cooking way more than I ever normally cook. I normally eat out like 2-3 times a week. So it's kind of like there's this sort of, there's only so many recipes in my head. So I'm like, right, okay, what can I do? How can I be creative? But I think, there are going to be people looking for certain types of information. And, as a freelancer, you can benefit from it.
100%. So and I was going to say, if you are a video producer, I know I kind of went off on a bit of a tangent there to fitness, but another sort of tip I'd give is if you are a video producer, music producer, or photographer, you've probably got a lot of old content sitting on hard drives that you've never used. Maybe it's like B-roll of cities that you live in. Now is a good time to upload to stock footage websites, upload any good 10-second shots, 15-second shots, photographs you've got, maybe music you've produced that no longer have any use for, and upload them to stock footage websites. Because at the moment, obviously we're all on lockdown. There's other freelancers who want video content producing, and they can't get out to maybe film that shot of the Peak District or Manchester city centre. If you've got that footage, people are now indoors in lockdown editing videos, but need that single shot of a cyclist or car, whatever it might be. So a great idea is look back through all of your past hard drives, use the metadata, update all of that, and upload it to stock footage sites. And that's another great way that I've seen some freelancers just getting an extra bit of money, whilst on lockdown. Not thousands, but just a few pounds here and there to help pay the bills.
That's really interesting. I think you can do the same with audio production as well. If you've got the capability of creating music from scratch, there's a big demand at the moment, more so than ever, for royalty-free music. And it's quite interesting seeing how that ecosystem's changed, because I remember when we used to buy music for videos a few years ago, the quality wasn't great. Whereas nowadays it's kind of on par with a commercial level sort of, pop music or rock or classical, whatever. It just sounds so great. So if you've got a real talent for that, there's certainly an opportunity there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you can see, you can see just the growth, I think, of YouTube content creators and podcasts as well. All of those things need music. I think music and audio is often, especially in the video world, forgotten sometimes. But everyone needs it. Everyone needs that audio. So yeah, if you're a music producer now, I think now is the time to be making jingles, intros, sound effects, tracks. Get that uploaded.
I'm curious because I was watching a video you did recently on YouTube video marketing and how you can kind of target really specific keywords. I thought that was really interesting. It's something I wasn't actually aware of myself. And I remember when I was at your office, you kind of mentioned that to me.
So yeah, there's it's actually fantastic how deep you can target down. Each platform seems to work a little bit differently. So there is a little learning curve between, say, Facebook and YouTube and even LinkedIn and Instagram.
Yeah.
But what you can do, what I've been getting into recently in terms of YouTube, if we start there, is with YouTube, you can actually target a video, one of those little pre-roll 15, 30-second ads at the start of a video. You can target people. So if someone has searched for, I don't know, say, for example, people that stuck at home, they want a lawnmower. If someone searched on Google, lawnmowers for sale, and you're a lawnmower salesperson, you can create like a little video ad that pops up in that first 15, 30 seconds. And that will display at the front of any video for that search. And it doesn't have to be a video about lawnmowers or that kind of niche or topic. And the best part about that kind of ad that I've found is that YouTube only charges you once you get to or past 15 seconds. So if someone sees your brand, sees your products that you have to offer or the service, you're not getting charged if they skip that ad, but really it's gone into that customer's mind. If they get past that, then they charge you. But at that point, they're probably quite interested in what you sell. So that's one that I'm really playing around with on YouTube. And then in terms of...
So what's the secret then to getting someone's attention in those first 30 seconds? Because ultimately, everyone's seen those ads where you're waiting like countdown to get to zero so you can skip it. But what's the secret to actually because you've only got so many seconds to get someone's attention? What's the trick to doing that, I think?
So I think where a lot of people go wrong, they try and create content like they're creating a national television advert. So they're trying to create one video that they think hopefully appeals to a bit of everyone, and I think that's where people go wrong. They're targeting way too broad. When you have the ability on Facebook and YouTube to get exact search terms, that's when I think you should be real niche, and you can target locations as well. So again, like what we did with Gemma's fitness stuff, or even in the garden center example, I wouldn't just do let's say you're talking about the lawnmower again. I wouldn't do a lawnmower advert like it just goes nationwide. I would say, I would open up with, hey, are you looking for a lawnmower in the Salford area? Well, we've got them still for delivery here today, because you're targeting someone who searched for lawnmowers for delivery, and you're only targeting that ad to a location in Salford or Manchester. So you know that person who's watching can only be in Salford, has had to have searched for a lawnmower. And then when they see you say, hey, have you, sorry, we've got lawnmowers for delivery in the Salford area. It's like, whoa, this is freaky, you know. But
yeah, I see what you mean. So you're
buy.
kind of like the person watching that the advert is going to respond differently, because you're actually so local, because actually what you're used to seeing is messaging which is just kind of fairly generic, especially if you're watching TV. You're seeing adverts that just are targeting everyone and everyone, anyone and everyone. And I guess if you're perhaps maybe a nationwide distributor of a product, you could actually record variations of the same advert to talk to people in different local areas as well.
Yeah, 100%. I definitely recommend that. We try and do it on some of our ads as well. So even though you have some companies like ours that aren't really region specific, and I guess the same would be for you as well, you can still start with what it is that they do or use. So for example, for Editor's Keys, showing you a little secret behind the scenes of what we do is we say, are you a Premiere user? Are you an Audition user? Are you a Photoshop user? And then kick off the advert, because instant it's like, whoa, I am, hang on, what's this? You know, it keeps them going for the next 3 seconds, and then within the next 3, what else can you tag that is targeted to them? So I definitely think about how you can narrow down that intro to be very, very specific to them. So it could be location, it could be the business they run, like, are you a dentist and do you want to do a podcast? That kind of thing. It just really, really helps the effectiveness of that advert really to a different level, you know.
I think also there's kind of a lot of opportunity to be really creative with this. It's interesting when you say, you target sort of for your business, you target people who are using different bits of software, especially if you're a video editor. You're going to almost have this kind of weird like emotional attachment, I guess, like, because some people in video editing, they will just sit on one piece of software all day every day, and that's going to be like the majority of their life almost. So you're almost kind of like, and some people have funny like weird love-hate relationships with bits of software, like what I mean. It's kind of so I think there's definitely creativity there. One of the interesting, because we're obviously going out on radio.co, and I can see a few comments coming in here from people who have got radio stations, so I thought I'd be interested to touch on this. One of the pieces of advice that we give to people is, rather than just promoting your station, think about who your audience actually are. So if you've got a station playing classic rock, for example, and you're looking to create content for that audience, rather than just saying we play the best classic rock, think about what sort of artists that they really will resonate with. And say for example, are you a Led Zeppelin fan, or whatever it might be? We've got a specialist show, or if you kind of click onto our blog, we've got the top 10 Led Zeppelin songs of all time, whatever it might be. So it's about kind of being specific and kind of thinking about it sort of a bit deeper as to who your customer actually is, versus just sort of going out there with a kind of a broad sort of message, which doesn't always appeal to everyone.
Yeah, definitely. I heard a good kind of like an analogy of that, and it's to almost like think like a doctor, in terms of if you go into your doctor's surgery and he opens the door, he doesn't just say, here you go, here's these pills, this will cure your problem, because he hasn't listened to you yet. What you should really be doing is trying to get to the root problem. So what are your pain points? Where's the pain? And then when you listen to your patient, you can kind of work out what it is they actually need. And I think sort of a lot of businesses need to start doing that, instead of just promoting themselves like 100% of the time. They need to, like that example there, sort of Led Zeppelin, what are they into? What are their interests? When do they listen to shows? What times do they work? And then from that, you can sort of join the dots and say, right, well, they can only listen 5 to 6. They only like Led Zeppelin. They listen to it through this type of speaker system. Could even be an Alexa or something else that you could also tie some targeting to. And you can then really build up this customer profile. So you're just speaking directly to that person. And I think that always helps if you can give off, it's not even an impression, but give off the feeling that you're speaking directly to that person or people like that person. Definitely helps, you know.
I think another point you actually made there is on time as well, and time zones. So one of the great things about all these advertising platforms is you can tie it to, you know, you can only run adverts between, say, you know, if you know your listeners, if you're a radio station or if you're a podcast, you know, if people are listening at a specific time of the day, there are going to be more people who want to listen at that time of day as well. So running adverts tied to a specific time period, say between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. at night, versus spending your money on, you know, when people are at work and they're not as likely to tune in. Yes, you might still get some clicks, but ultimately those clicks you're going to be paying for, and they're not necessarily going to be taking action. So that's another thing to consider as well. And look at also where you know customers are. Make sure that your adverts are switched off when they're not, you know, in the time zone. If they're not awake, they're running overnight. You don't want to be spending money, you know, on an audience in a different country in a different time zone.
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I bet there'll be a lot of people watching this now who have tried Facebook ads before, or YouTube ads, or any types of advertising, and just thought it doesn't work. You know, it's not for me. But usually, kind of what you've just explained there is usually the problem, where it's sort of it's too broad for one, and so of course you're going to waste money, because you might be hitting 9 out of 10 people who don't really like rock and roll, or they don't like Zed Lippin, or they're asleep at the time you put out the ad. So that money is just being wasted and wasted. So you really want to get that audience down as narrow as you can. And I've spoke to someone else. I was helping a guy before set up some ads, and you know, on sort of Facebook or YouTube, where it sort of says the audience is 1 million, then it goes down to 30,000 and then 10. And he's like, well, I want more people to see it though. And I'm like, yeah, but more isn't always better. You know, more targeted 100%. Niche works better a lot of the time.
Yeah, cool. And you're getting more value, more bang for your buck, getting more value per click than you would if you're targeting millions of people who aren't necessarily going to be that targeted. Okay, so just to kind of actually briefly interrupt there, if anyone's got any questions for Mark or myself, please put them in the comments. And we'd love to take some of your questions at the end of this chat. So put them in the comments. We're going out on LinkedIn, Facebook. We're going out on LinkedIn, radio.co, YouTube, and also my own YouTube as well. So we're monitoring the comments. If you've got any questions, please put them in. So just to kind of kick off with our final topic then, social media. What can freelancers be doing on social media to generate revenue?
Right. So I think now is a good time to really revisit your social media pages, because we've all done it. You know, we kind of create a page 3 or 4 years ago. We don't really update it. And then when you actually take a step back and you revisit that page, you might notice that some of the videos you've got up, some of the examples of your work are actually not your best. You know, they might have been good 3 or 4 years ago, but times have changed, or you've just done better videos, you've done better content, you've done whatever it is. You know, you might have a better client list that looks better in terms of the names that you've worked for. So I would really recommend revisiting your LinkedIn pages and updating those, because when you do that as well, LinkedIn sends out a little ping to everyone saying, you know, Mark or James have just updated their profile, and it sort of gets a little bit of interest. So I would definitely recommend doing that, just having a little bit of a clean up first. And then probably what I do is, especially on, you know, like your YouTubes and your Facebook, use that as well to create content. You know, long form content does pretty well on Facebook. So again, in the same way that you would maybe create content for a podcast or a YouTube video, is there some sort of written content you could do for Facebook? You know, I think it's a great way to actually get engagement. And if you can then possibly create that into a video. And then the great thing about videos on places like Facebook is you can actually retarget those with ads if you want to do ads in the future. And you can say, target this ad to people who have watched at least 50% of this video we've done in the past. So it can always set you up as well for a future audience that you might want to.
I think you touched on a really interesting point there, because actually I only found out about this maybe sort of 6 months ago, the fact that you can target people who have watched a percentage of your videos. And one of the benefits of that as well is, you know, those people are engaged, obviously, you know, they're actually paying attention to your content, your brand. So there's an opportunity there. to perhaps they're kind of sat on the fence. If you've got a product or service that you're selling, maybe they're not a customer yet, but they were engaging with your content. So you know that if you're targeting people who have watched content, getting them to sort of just make that move to then become a customer, or even just book a chat with you or something, is going to be easier to do than someone who's just coming in cold.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can really use this as a good ad strategy, in the same way that you shouldn't be too salesy on a podcast or YouTube video. If you're creating good content, it could be an accountancy firm who are offering sort of advice during this period. If you're creating videos on that, that's going to be shared quite a lot. If it's advice that can save you money or your business money, you could put that out. That might be shared a lot of times. And you do a second video about the same subject. And then what you can actually do for an ad is, you can retarget people who have watched 25% of video 1, 30% of video 2, and then hit them with, if you're looking for a new accountant, check us out. And that works really well because people have built up that trust with you. They've seen your videos, and it's going to work much better than you just doing one straight video to camera saying, choose me as your accountant. So people are going to have never seen you before. It's not going to work particularly well.
Cool. Okay. So just to summarize then, so basically use the time we've got at the moment to update your social media channels. I think we're all guilty of that. Certainly we are. I know, you're dead right. And it's something you don't think about. You set up a page, you set up your profile, and then you don't touch it for quite often years.
Yeah, definitely.
It's totally true. And also as well, I think just using the time to kind of be creative and start really thinking about maybe adjusting your strategy, because it kind of gives you a chance to actually take a step back, and perhaps you've got a sort of social media strategy that you've just been churning out the same kind of content for the last couple of years. Like, what could you do differently? How have things changed? And ultimately as well, like you said, I think for freelancers, companies working with perhaps different clients, like updating your portfolio as well, and looking at actually, what can you talk about that's been really interesting that you've been doing over the last year. And I think the main benefit of that as well is, if you use this time to do that, then when things do start to go back to normal, you kind of have given yourself a little bit of a head start, particularly as a small business or a freelancer, rather than just kind of, I think it's about being proactive, isn't it, ultimately?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think now is the time to do it. It's I think I said to you previously, even little things like I'm trying to use the hour that I would normally drive to work to do exercise. Same for your business. I think now is the time to use that new time you have being locked down positively. Use those extra few minutes you have not walking to the office to maybe do something else. I mean, actually, I signed up to matchmaker.fm, and cool. As we've said on some of the videos we did, we haven't started a podcast yet. I'd never been a guest on a podcast. So I went onto there. I've emailed sort of 5 or 6 people, got a reply from 3. I've already been on 1 podcast.
Really? Great.
Invited for another 2. So stuff like that I didn't have the time for or wasn't ready to do.
What podcasts were they that you out of interest?
So the one that I've recorded already is the Boss It podcast.
Cool, okay.
And then there's 2 more that G&T. I forgot the end of the podcast. They kill me.
Are they kind of like business related, or are they geared towards video? Or
yeah, one is related towards video, and the rest is kind of business related. Yeah, one does software based business podcasts.
We've had some people getting really good reactions. It's good to have some live feedback actually. It's cool. One of the things I was going to mention was, if anyone wants to sign up to Matchmaker, and if you've got an interest in getting booked onto other podcasts, now's a great time to do it. And I think as well, recording podcasts at the moment is a good time. You don't have to be there face to face. You could do it remotely, just like we're doing at the moment. So if you want to check it out, matchmaker.fm, totally free to join. You can connect using your LinkedIn or your Facebook account. Okay, so time for some questions. If anyone's got any questions, please put them in the comments, but we've already got a bunch to go through here, so we'll kick off with a few. So firstly, hi James and Mark, how do we target small size companies, say 11 to 50 employees?
So there's a number of ways you can do this. It'd be good to know what they do, but there's a few different ways. One is, this only works, to be honest, if they are not in a packed city centre, but you can actually target on location based. So if you're lucky enough to be in like a smaller town or village where things are a bit more spaced out, you can actually drop a pin and then shrink the the area that that ad will show, and then use a couple of more key metrics. So you could target just around this sort of store. It'll probably go within, you know, just under a quarter of a mile, which is still quite a large space. But then you can target down to people who have interest in. So, you know, if they're, I'm trying to think, you know,
bakery or something,
bakery, someone who shows interest in Master Chef or bakery, or so you can really tailor it down. It takes a little bit of thinking, but just jot down who they are, and then of course on that level you probably get a few people who might see the advert, but at least you know they're all around that store. So it could be that someone who goes into the store says, "Oh, I saw this advert about this thing. I think that'd be interesting for you." They might tag that person in, so it's not always bad. But that's the way I'll do it. I'd kind of use geolocation tags, which you can do on YouTube, Facebook, or even Instagram, and then try and target it down more to the company that you're trying to target. I think LinkedIn, I think you can still target based on the company they work for. They keep moving it around. They took it off for a while, they put it back on. Sometimes you can target on employer of on some networks.
I mean, one of the points I was going to make to address that question actually is, if you don't want to spend on advertising, LinkedIn is, you know, okay, you're going to have to put the legwork in. You can either pay for a premium LinkedIn subscription. They have something called Sales Navigator, which allows you to be really specific about who, you know, your search is. But then if you click on someone's profile and then click on the company on their profile, it normally says how many users or employees of that company are connected to it. So you can immediately see, for example, how many people on LinkedIn are working for that company. And that kind of gives you an indication, like if it's a smaller company and, you know, this says there's maybe 10 employees, the chances are, there might be a few people who aren't on LinkedIn who are working for that company. But if you can see it says, 400, obviously that company is going to be way out of your sort of target demographic. So I think that's a really good way. And then of course, you know, just browsing company profiles on LinkedIn, you can see. But as I say, if you're willing to spend some money, Sales Navigator, I think it costs like a $50 or $80 a month, you know, as part of one of the higher tier LinkedIn plans.
Well, one little tactic actually that I tried, and this is on Instagram. Again, if you're trying to target specifically people and you know who they are, as long as you're not being too salesy, I wouldn't be too spammy on this. But I actually recorded it with a music store. I just DM'd the person and then did a video message like, hey Jim, just wondering if we could talk to you sometime about this. I love your Instagram profile. Maybe there's something we can do here. And because it was a video message, it's a bit harder to ignore. And it was, I wasn't trying to oversell anyway. So I think do that one as long as you're not being just a direct sale video message. But if it's something you can do personable, maybe try that as well for free.
It definitely breaks through the noise, doesn't it? Interestingly, I know on LinkedIn you can also send audio messages, and I've never done this, but I've had quite a few people where I've sent them a message and they've replied to me. And I think you have to do it on your mobile device. I don't think you can do it on desktop, but you can reply via a voice clip like you can on WhatsApp. And of course, that gets your attention because you actually have to, you're like, what is this? And press play, you actually listen to it. And I think perhaps, you know, it's easier to sort of command someone's attention by doing that versus just sending them a blurb of text that they can easily just ignore.
Definitely. Because I don't know about you, but my LinkedIn messenger box is turning into like a spam box of just every message seems to start with, have you considered X? It's like everyone's got the same script at the moment. So I think anything you can do to be different. And, you know, I'm not getting very many voice clips or video clips sent to me. So, yeah, that would really catch my eye, definitely.
Cool. Got a couple of questions from Angus Millen, who actually I interviewed on the last episode of Create, Reach, Inspire. He said he's loving this live interview idea, James. I'd love to know how you set this up on LinkedIn, as well as very ahead of the curve and very innovative. And also, how much do we need to invest in kit to be able to film, record, and edit podcasts? So, I maybe if I could handle that first question, and then Mark, do you want to handle the second? So in terms of going live on LinkedIn, it's still something that's a kind of by invite or request only. So they're running it as a beta. It's been in beta for about a year and a bit. Interestingly, it's not that easy to get on. I applied 3 times before I finally got granted access, and I think I started applying like October last year, and I finally got access in February. So if you Google like LinkedIn Live beta, there's an application form you can fill out. But as I say, it's one of these things you're kind of at the mercy of the big corporate gods. So you have no idea really, like if your application's being reviewed or not. As I say, for me, it was third time lucky. But and it took months before I could get it. But if you can get on, it's worth doing. I think interestingly, they've had this live streaming functionality on a lot of the other platforms for some years now, but it's kind of associated with a lot of like people streaming live video games and that sort of stuff. Whereas on LinkedIn, you're exposing yourself to a totally different audience, and so but they, as a result, I think they're quite keen to make sure that they've got people who are producing good sort of businessy content versus just using it to have a laugh with their mates or whatever. So in terms of equipment, obviously Editor's Keys, I know you've got lots of stuff on offer. What's your opinion on that? How much should someone be investing if they're sort of taking it seriously?
Yeah, I think really start with the basics. I mean, of course, we're on lockdown, so I'm just in the spare room at home. But I think the main thing you need, really, especially if it's a podcast or a video call like we're doing now, is a good microphone. So we do two. This is the SL600. It's sort of a black and orange number. That's £200, but we do one for 100 as well. But of course, you can get them from anywhere. And they just really help clean up your audio. There's nothing worse than having just, even using AirPods aren't great, or even worse, the microphone built into the MacBook Pro is terrible on mine. And it's just, I think if you're a listener, I think we've spoken about this before as well, James, you mentioned there's real listener fatigue. And if you have horrible, scratchy audio, people are going to switch off. So I would recommend the microphone's the main number one thing you get. And if you can get lights for video, cheap lights on Amazon, £30-40, spot on.
Yeah, I think actually just interesting lighting. If you are recording video on a webcam or your iPhone, just having lighting will turn from kind of being okay to being much better. If you want to take things up a notch, sort of investing in a DSLR, you can get them for around sort of £300-400 for an all right one, up to a couple of grand for a sort of higher end one. But again, DSLR records onto an SD card. This stuff makes it so much easier. Like 10 years ago, to record decent video, I remember the first video camera I bought was like a big Sony thing, like with one of those tapes in, and then you had to capture it through Firewire, and it was like it just took ages to do anything.
It was all in real time, wasn't it? You sort of had to play it and then record at the same time.
I think we spent about £2,000 on that camera, or £2 or £3,000 or something. It was like a big investment at the time, and then of course, like, it was antiquated like 2 years later. But
the incredible thing is now, the iPhone camera is so good. I mean, I'm using the MacBook Pro at the moment, and this is terrible compared to the iPhone camera. So you can get some really good results, even from a fairly modern smartphone. I'd obviously recommend a DSLR, but if you're just dipping your toe in the water and you want to play around first, iPhones are fantastic just to start with and get your feelers out there for it.
Cool. Okay. Next question from Seba. He asks, hey guys, loving these discussions. I'm a digital marketing consultant. Apart from online courses, coaching, etc., are there any cool remote-based monetization models you've seen people doing or launching?
In terms of, I don't know if I understood the question there, as something that he could do to promote.
Yeah, I guess it's if you're a digital marketing consultant, I guess it's basically like how can you turn your skills into revenue? So obviously the obvious one is creating online courses or selling coaching. But what else could you do? I mean, I think the main thing is, like, from my perspective, is think about what products you can create, which are not necessarily information based, but maybe reacting to a problem within the market that you've identified based on your skill set. So think about software maybe.
Yeah, and also I think definitely consider as well while you've got this time, because on lockdown, you are going to have limited resources, I guess. It's think about brand building as well. You can do things that don't necessarily get you money in straight away, but something I've learned over the last few years is actually building the brand is so much more important than you sometimes think early on. And once you start building that brand and you get the snowball, then things just start happening for you. I know since we did the YouTube channel, since we've done other things here and there, we've obviously done all of those for free. They've cost us money, but they've brought in sales. They've, longer term, they've brought in recommendations. People have emailed for paid jobs. So some things aren't as obvious, but they pay off.
I think it's building goodwill in your marketplace. I've always been big on this. It's like if people recognize you, they might not sign up as a customer straight away. And in fact, we have customers who will sign up with competitors sometimes realize that they're awful, that they have non-existent customer support, and then come back to us because they remember us. Now, if we hadn't spent so much time and energy kind of investing in building the brand, the chances are they may have forgotten about us. They wouldn't know necessarily to come back. And I think, sometimes that can be really valuable, the branding thing. But then, of course, the goal of the nature ultimately is you get people on board from the get-go, because they can see so much value in what you're delivering. They think, okay, I want to sign up with this company, I want to buy their products, whatever it might be. But I think it's a really good tool for sort of customer retention, and also for getting customers to keep coming back as well. If you do lose a customer, making sure that they return to you at some point.
And I think one thing Zebra could do at the moment as well is, in this moment in time, everyone is struggling. So if they can do something small for maybe an existing client or a new client, it doesn't take them long, 10, 15 minutes, an hour, but it gets them results, then that's going to help that client then say, well, hang on, if you can do this in like a day, let's sign you up for an ongoing monthly recurring payment, to do some more marketing for us.
Sort of, using the extra time to over deliver almost for new clients, to make sure that, you're really showing people that, they're great. Okay. So a couple more questions just to sort of wrap up. Any advice for video thumbnails?
Video thumbnails. Yeah. So this is something I'm constantly playing around with, actually, because I don't like them to be too clickbaity, but what I'm learning is clickbaity definitely plays a good role in getting someone to click. There's a couple of tools I use. One is called Morning Fame, and I use a couple called TubeBuddy. And sometimes what they help you to do, and you can do this on YouTube anyway, but if you type in maybe the title you've got in mind for your video, one thing we used to do, but these apps help, is download the top 10 thumbnails that are showing up in the results for your kind of key title, and then put them in like a YouTube Photoshop A4 sheet, and just look at them, and the one that you've got, drag that in and think, does this really stand out? There's some tips. What I'd find is having the text to the left as opposed to the right always seems to help, because if you do it to the right, you get the little kind of 4K markers and the time at the top. Sometimes the text gets covered up once it's on YouTube. So moving text to the left, big bold text, clean text. I think it's difficult because you see other YouTubers like Mr. Beast and stuff who have these crazy big colors and hundreds of different fonts, and that works well for him. So I think is experimenting, really. There is actually a new analytic within YouTube if you've got YouTube Studio, and it does show you a click-through rate of a thumbnail. So and that is based on of that top page, what percent you get. I think anything over about 3% is marked is pretty good. We've been getting kind of like 5 to 8%, but you can sometimes see ones that do really well flag up in there.
Again, it's interesting because when I first started uploading YouTube videos, this wasn't even a thing. It's probably the last 5 years that people have really started thinking, okay, thumbnails are actually really important. It used to be the case you'd upload a YouTube video and you just rely on whatever thumbnail it automatically picked, and that was fine, or you might just use the sort of intro slide or whatever. Interesting. One of the things that I noticed you did when we did our sort of video series at the beginning of February, you actually came to the office to get after we filmed at your office. You then said, "Is it okay if we come and take some separate photos just to use for the thumbnails?" Now that's again something I've never done before. Is that something you'd recommend? Perhaps making a conscious effort to sort of stage some photos, just for the sake of the thumbnail.
Yeah, I think so, because I don't know if I've just got one of those faces, but whenever I take a screenshot from the video, I'm always like halfway through a chat and I can never grab it. Same. So it definitely helps, I think, to have a clean, clear photo, but also like the ones we did, we're kind of pointing at a message, or we've got the mics in shot. So I think sometimes you can help engineer the messages of what is going to be conveyed in the video. So if you're, if you're, let's go fitness again, and you can have some fitness equipment in there and you're kind of leaning on it without any words, the person can guess that this is probably a fitness video. So I think it definitely helps if you can kind of sum up in some way what your video content is going to be about. If you took that title off, would someone still be able to work out within reason what this is about? I think you're probably onto a winner there.
Interesting. Okay. How can audio producers find freelance work at the moment? I can't get to my studio, but have bare bones equipment at home. I think again, like look at sort of producing sort of custom tracks for sort of video use, and also as well, just like just be proactive at your outreach, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think, what we said about before, if you've got any old stuff on hard drives, get them on stock footage sites, even start sharing them out on some of the sort of music-based social networking sites, just to get your name out there a bit. You could even upload it to YouTube and just, there are sites, I can't think the name off the top of my head, there are a couple of sites where it creates animations based on music, and you could kind of put out some songs. It's difficult if you haven't got much equipment on you, but maybe use the time to learn some new skills as well. If you're early on in the career, it's difficult if you're an audio producer and you haven't got the gear with you. But yeah, I would try and kind of do a bit more outreach maybe, and developing the business side of things.
Cool. All right, Mark, thanks very much for your time today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
You're welcome.
I think it's been really interesting discussion. And if anyone wants to find out more about you guys, how can they find out more?
So the website is editorskeys.com. We're also on pretty much all socials, on Twitter, Instagram, using @editorskeys. And then the YouTube channel, if you want to see mine and James's video series about podcasting, that's youtube.com/editorskeys.
Cool. Well, thanks very much. It's been great to have you on board. Just before we finish up, we mentioned Matchmaker earlier. If you've not already signed up to Matchmaker, it's a great way to get booked on podcasts. If you have your own podcast, you can also create a profile for that as well. So go and check it out. Perfect thing to do at the moment. As we mentioned, go and get booked on some podcasts. It's a really good tool to develop your personal brand. If you're a radio station or if you've got your own podcast, fantastic promotion tool for that as well. So thanks very much for Mark for joining me for Working Lunch Today. We'll be back next Wednesday for another session. Take care.